Hey, where are you at with Jett? James Kraft asks, why did Honda take the risk to change the 2024 CRF 450 if it was working so well? Well, it wasn't working well from what we had heard. That's why they changed it. But where are you at? I thought his balance looked like myself personally. Like the bike looked really light in the rear, driving the front looked twitchy in certain areas, and like it had no balance whatsoever. Like you would over rotate in the corners when you try to get on the gas, like it would slip just that little bit coming out. And it's like what do you think they need to do? Like where are you at?
Yeah, well, first of all, good question, James Kraft. Here's the thing: is from the manufacturer standpoint, as we're watching Jett go through the whoops, get a little bit loose, comes into the sand, actually just slices Savatgy right off, and then goes down. These manufacturers, they can't stay stagnant, right? So yes, was the previous bike maybe better, whatever the case may be, but they're all striving to improve each model each year. And as we know, we these manufacturers typically run models from anywhere from 3 to 4 years, and then they have a new chassis change or motor or new technology or whatever the case may be. They're building these motorcycles from the consumer standpoint, not for guys like Jett. That's why when any chance you get to walk through the pits, you get up and close with these motorcycles. There's a lot of things that we do, engine hangers, stiffening, different triple clamps to have the stiffer, more rigidity feel. But the baseline of where that motorcycle starts off is to sell that motorcycle to the consumer, right? Mm-hmm. So we're able to do this amazing sport because of the following that we have from the consumer side. Yep. So that being said, I'll use Yamaha for an example. Like they went through some, 2010 when the reversed engine came out, like they struggled for quite a few years to figure out that chassis and make it better. And now they have. It took them a little bit of time, but now it's a phenomenal motorcycle. So from that standpoint, they can't stay stagnant. They have to keep improving those motorcycles because Yamaha's doing the same thing, KTM's doing the same thing, and some of them hit and some of them don't. Guys like Dazzy and Team Honda, the boys' dad, Jett Hunter's dad, Dazzy, and Lars, everybody at Honda, like they'll figure it out. Like it shouldn't take them super long, but also
it'll be better this week, I bet.
I bet he is going to be better this week. They got that first one out of the way. And here's the other, like I had said before, the things that Jett is dealing with is different than what Chase is dealing with in his position. The mental capacity of still trying to raise that bar, but also, like I had said, not losing too is something you have in your head, like trying to keep that win streak or that the wins of championships going. So being that it was Anaheim 1 with all the hype, I think that we're going to see just a different Jett in general, regardless if the bike stays the exact same. I think he's going to be a better Jett and at San Diego or Anaheim too, right? Get a couple rounds into this thing, and then we can start really debating about, what the hell is going on or vice versa.
You're right. I do. Yeah. I think they're going to be better for sure. I mean, Honda has the resources, RV, that, and to all our listeners and viewers, I think they're going to be working quick. I think they're going to get some kind of remedy and get the balance better. I think they're going to be on the hustle for sure. And they have to,
RC, what about this? What if that's kind of the setup, what they were expecting to come into Anaheim 1 with, meaning on those Hondas, like typically Anaheim 1, I thought the track held up, and the way the track for the main events, both main events, was really well. It was really good track. It wasn't really, dry yet. Like Anaheim 2 should see a completely set of conditions, but also typically Anaheim 1, gets a little more ruddy, gets a little more chattery, gets a little bit more braking bumps, breaks down a little bit more. We haven't had any rain here on the West Coast, so that dirt sits outside the stadium. Obviously, everybody knows we had those gnarly winds a week and a half ago. Dries all that stuff out. And what if they were expecting a different condition with that?
Well, I still think that the bike is off, like the balance is off. And when I watch certain bikes, and I know there's like this movement in the last year or so with extending the rear shock. I'm sure that you've heard about that. Everyone's going taller subframes and all that. And I
so foreign for me and you.
Yeah, I understand the theory behind it. On paper, for sure, I think that it works better on paper. But when I watch some of these bikes, I almost look like they're setting them up because it works good on the dyno, and where you have maximum grip, not realistic conditions. But then when I watch the KTM Sextons, I almost look like they're not setting it up of how it would work on paper, and they're setting it up to how it would work for realistic, race conditions. Like maybe you set your bike up, and I that's what I feel like. Like they need to get back to basics and make it simple to a certain extent, and get something that works good that maybe isn't on paper. An example of that is, I think we talked about this, is like when they would do engine work and you're like, man, this thing works really well on the dyno. It has a shitload of horsepower and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that's scary, because on the dyno, you have maximum grip. There's no wheel spin, so like most of the time, if it had too much power, it was uncontrollable. So that's kind of like what I'm saying with this, with how some of these bikes look set up. It's like they're so tall in the rear,
Yeah, tall, a little bit tall and a little free. They definitely are a lot from traditional. Like I'll use traditional, meaning you and me and you.
Yeah.
We would, and I know the bikes and chassis are much further along than what we raced and what we rode. And I can tell that, and you can tell that by riding your Triumph. I can tell that by taking my YZ250F or 450 right off the showroom floor and not having to touch it. So it's much, as a platform, it's much 100%. Better.
Yeah.
But there is a happy medium with,
there's a balance. There's a balance.
Yeah, it's bizarre that guys are adding millimeters to the shock, where typically we stole or took a millimeter out of the shock and cut the subframe a little bit. And I'm not saying that was right either. We were fixing a Band-Aid on that one with what we were doing. But
100%. And dude, I'm not dude, I'd be the first to tell you, I wouldn't recommend my setup and how I race to anyone, but even though it didn't work well on paper, it made me comfortable, right?
Yep.
And I could twist the throttle. And if I tried to set my bike up of how it should work technically on paper, I couldn't ride the thing.
Yep.
And that's just where I feel like you still have to go by the human element sometimes. And how does it feel to you? Not how it's supposed to feel. That's
yep. And practice tracks, they have so many laps on, let's use their track in Florida. Like, every little rut, little kicker, little transition of how steep the jump is. You get it like the back of your hand. Mm-hmm. And if you have something that is maybe a little bit looser, quicker rebound, that is, and you go to a track that you only have 3 sessions on before the heat race and then the main event, like, you don't have that time to learn it like the back of your hand, and let alone now you're racing against 22 guys in a pack and amongst everybody, with all of those different elements being thrown at you every millisecond of that race. As soon as the gate drops, that makes it sometimes hard. I think that if they were more comfortable, obviously on their setting Saturday night, that we might have saw a different outcome.
Hi folks, Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.